Hey guys, Super Agent Guy back again with another video. The last video had the biggest question I got from all my clients was, hey Eric, what about open houses? Can we go to open houses without a buyer's broker's agreement? How does that work? What does it look like? Open houses. With the new NAR settlement, when a listing agent lists the property with the seller, they are representing the seller. The seller can choose, we talked about this the other day, but a seller can choose to agree to pay a buyer's commission, like old times, I guess we'll keep saying, like old times. Now, buyers can go to an open house without a signed agreement because the seller already has a signed listing agreement with their listing agent. And that listing agreement may be giving the buyer's agent commission, or it may not be giving a buyer's agent commission. Either way, a buyer is allowed to go to an open house unrepresented just because the listing agent who is there is specifically representing the seller. Now, it's not to get more complicated, but a listing agent can also enter into something called dual agency, which then they also represent the buyer. It gets confusing. Most agents don't want to do dual agency, and here's why. They want to represent their client to the best of their ability, either the buyer or the seller, and it's just better that they kind of stay on one side, in my opinion, and it prevents a lot of lawsuits. You know, as an agent, it's kind of hard to represent one party and represent the other party, and in my opinion, be, 100% representing each party, right? It's like if you had a basketball coach for two different teams and they get to the final state championship and it's like the coach is coaching both teams now. There's going to be maybe some biasness. I don't know. I just feel like it's hard to represent each party 100% best you can. Anyways, there's always scenarios that works, and we're not going to get too complicated into that. But as a buyer, you can go to an open house you see on Zillow, Redfin, wherever on the internet. You can go to that open house without a signed buyer's agreement because the seller is already has an agreement with the listing agent that's on premises in regards to commission and whatever that's going to look like. Now, if you came to an open house, also, I'll throw this in there. You can go to an open house if you already have a signed agreement with a buyer's agent, a different buyer's agent other than the listing agent. You certainly can go to an open house without your buyer's agent present, and you're already represented, so that's all good there. In the case where a buyer comes into an open house and they're like, oh, this is a cool open house, right? They're checking it out. Well, if they're not represented and then they talk to the agent there, the listing agent there, and they're like, hey, let's go take a look at some properties tomorrow or whatever. Different properties, not this one. At that point, you're probably going to need to go ahead and get your buyer's, that form signed, because now you're representing them looking at other properties. So, hopefully that clarifies things. I had a lot of people asking about the open houses. So, here's another scenario for you. Let's say said buyer who walks into the open house and says, oh, we want to buy it, right? And the listing agent's there, said, we want to buy it. Well, the listing agent's probably going to ask them, are you represented? Are you unrepresented? Let's say that they're unrepresented, okay? Now, there's a chance that the listing agent doesn't want to represent that buyer. So they may tell you, the listing agent there, and again, they have their own agreement with the seller at this point, whether they have a buyer's agent commission set up or not. But the listing agent may say, hey, go get an agent to represent you. That listing agent can represent you, but now if the sellers did not already agree to a buyer's agent commission, at that point, you have to negotiate essentially a commission as whether you're going to just represent the seller or now you're going to represent the seller and the buyer, and how that all works. There's like a whole bunch of scenarios that can happen right there. So anyways, as you guys know, this is not legal advice by any means. This is just kind of information, things that are like floating around, everybody's talking about. I sent my previous video, like I said, to a bunch of clients, and they said, hey, well, what about open houses? So that's kind of the gist of it. Also, there's one more thing I want to clear up. I had a lot of people email me back, and they said, I'm not signing a form at all with any agent. I'm just like, if I see a house and I want to buy it, then I'll buy that one. And whatever agent shows me that house, I'll use that agent. Okay, let me clarify. What I'm trying to tell you is you have to have a signed agreement by law to view properties with an agent in the state of Oregon. To my understanding, that's the new law. So, if you don't want to sign a form, you know, I don't know how, I don't know how that works for you. I don't know if agents, I don't really know how that's going to work. I mean, maybe there's somewhere out there, there's an agent who's got something else figured out and somehow they're able to show you properties, but to my understanding, that's against the new law. So, that was something that kind of came up because a lot of people say, I'm not going to sign anything, you know, until I find the right house. Well, okay, but this is just the new law. I'm just relaying the information from what I've learned, and that's that. So anyways, hope everybody's doing good. Thanks for watching.